Hi, this is David Herman from Web Marketing for Dentists. I'm going to describe quickly this dentist story, Dr. Hardy in North Carolina, who re-engaged with his old leads for 2 months, got 28 new patients, wrote up $445,000 in treatment plans. This leads us into a bigger question of why? What was going on that allowed him to solve such a big problem? There must have been a problem to start off with that he solved. And let's start there, and then we will swing right back to the way he solved it. So the first thing for us to look at is the issue of wasted leads. So there are many wasted leads that we've seen with dentists, and we've listened to 600,000 phone calls. And we see that generally 45% of those calls are missed. We also see that of the ones that are answered, so 55% get answered, and only 45% of those calls actually book an appointment on that first call. So 55% times 45% is 25% booked, which means that we want to know what happens to the other 75%. 75 of 100 people calling in are just bursting out of your sales pipeline. And this, of course, is the opportunity that's created by the problem of wasted leads. So now we're going to have to discuss a little bit about the sales pipeline. We chose a pipe because it has to do with your sales pipeline. And the first thing we have to address is that you are actually in sales. Zig Ziglar, who's a very famous sales guru, top guru of the past 50 years, said maybe you don't hold the title of a salesperson, but if the business you are in requires you to deal with people, you, my friend, are in sales. That's a picture of you being in sales. Maybe you wear slightly more masks these days, and maybe you don't shake people's hands anymore. But that's you. That's the dentist saying, greeting the patient, saying something to the patient. That is part of the sales process. So this is you. And there are two things that you need to know about what is required to follow up in sales. The first thing is that following up is where the fortune is. Jim Rohn, who's another famous sales guru, said the fortune is in the follow-up. And here I put red boxes around what you need to look at. The first thing you need to know is only 10% of salespeople make more than 3 contacts. So they reach out 3 times. That's considered to be top level salesperson. And remember, you don't have any salespeople. You have somebody who's maybe good at sales on the front desk. Maybe you lucked out, but you don't have salespeople. And even the good ones are only reaching out 3 times. And unfortunately, the data says that 80% of sales are made on the 5th to the 12th contact. So obviously you see the gap there. Even the best are only calling or only reaching out 3 times. And it requires 5 to 12 outreaches in order to get to make an appointment. So that's relentlessness. I would call that being relentless and not giving up. I mean, you give up eventually. You can't call them 20 times and expect that you'll just keep on going, but you have to keep on trying until you get to 12 contacts. The other thing is that you have to be fast. Speed is really important. And I wanted to show you this research from Zant. They found out that if a company, and this is any company, not just dentistry, but if a company calls a lead within 5 minutes of the time that they submitted a web form, it is 100 times more likely to get that prospect on the phone than if the contact was attempted just 30 minutes later. 30 minutes is a game changer. And so those are 2 things right there. Relentlessness and speed are required when you're dealing with new patient leads. Now, this is the guy that you've always wanted to avoid. This is not the guy that you need to hire. Salespeople are not around in your practice for this very reason. This is not the guy that you want. We are not recommending that you go and hire a salesperson. And you may be thinking, well, let me just give it to Superwoman at the front desk, right? She's the front desk, she's manager, she's a patient coordinator. Let's just throw the task to her. I'm sure she'll manage to do it. Well, I think we have to be realistic about what she has to do and where new patient leads lie in the hierarchy of her priorities. So let's have a look at some of her priorities. Your front desk is obviously first and foremost responsible to you, the dentist, or the dentists, and perhaps even the hygienist as well. If people call and front desk doesn't come, that's going to be bad for them. They know you are the guys that pay their salaries. They're going to do what you want, and sometimes that has medical consequences if they don't come running and do what you tell them to do. The second one, of course, is existing patients. They are actual dollars coming into the practice. They have to schedule them, they have to reschedule them, deal with payments, insurance verification, directions, people in the waiting room. There are incoming calls from existing patients with questions. There's collections. That's just the top of the list. But there's obviously all of these break down into more sections. I mean, even the physical plant. You don't have a physical plant manager. If the AC goes down, who's taking care of that stuff? The front desk is taking care of that stuff. It's calling out to try to get somebody in. And then you've probably got another, dozen or so priorities that are way above, probably I would estimate down at number 16 is new patient leads, which after all, let's face it, is just potential dollars. You want to deal with the real dollars, right? With real health issues right now in your office, real financial issues right now in your office. They just don't have time. There's no prioritization. And remember, we said speed was important. I mean, if this is priority number 16, you'll get around to it when you get around to it. And that doesn't work very well for leads. So what are your options? So you essentially have the homegrown option, which is option A. You take care of it yourself. Like you might tinker with your own car and fix it up yourself, spend some time with it if you enjoy it. You're trying to fine tune an overloaded front desk. And you're trying to do that constantly. So what you have to do is you brief the staff on what you want, you get them to buy in, maybe you do some kind of incentives, then you track how well they did, and then you remediate. You say, well, you guys didn't spend as much time as I was hoping. Let's try to make it like twice a week that you reach out to the leads. And it's a whole consulting project. You're taking on a consulting project internally. And let's face it, if relentlessness and speed are what you need, that's not what you're going to get from your own staff, because you're already pushing them really hard. And there's only a certain amount of pushing that they will take. So do yourself a favor, go for B, right? Outsource it to a performance-based, relentless and fast group of experts. Get more appointments and shows every month by making that minimum 10 contact attempts. Use a personalized approach created for your practice. They'll know what your unique selling proposition is and be able to position you well. You can de-stress your front desk, let them focus on the other 15 layers of priorities that they have. And also only continue to use this service if the ROI is good. We're not talking about hiring a person into your office and then potentially firing them a couple of months later. We're talking about an external service. And of course, you know where this is going. That external service is, no surprise, is a lead booking service that Web Marketing for Dentists runs. And so Dr. Hardy in North Carolina has been using Web Marketing for Dentists lead booking service for 2 months. And that is what has generated the 28 new patients, $445,000 in treatment plans. Obviously, Dr. Hardy wrote the treatment plans, but the 28 new patients ended up in his office because of our efforts. So avail yourself of this new service. If you think this is something appropriate for you, reach out. Somewhere around this video will be phone numbers and texting numbers and email addresses and forms and different ways of getting in touch with us. And we hope to speak to you about this soon. Thank you.